Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today let's review Doctor Who Series 2. So the second series of the modern series. And it's Series 2 is probably the weakest of the Russell T Davies 1 era. It's the only one I would call a mixed bag, because Series 1, 3, and 4 are pretty solid. 3 of the best seasons the show has gotten. I prefer just to call it seasons because it's easier. The show has ever gotten. Doctor Who really peaked early, the modern series. But Series 2 is definitely one of those seasons that has high highs, low lows, with a combination of stories that fall in the low but not low lows. And then it also has some average stories, and then some like 1 or 2 A-tier stories. But there's definitely a couple bottom of the barrel stories, and then you also have some S-tier, up there stories. It's kind of, a season like this is kind of the opposite of, say, the current season 2, where I don't know if we've necessarily had any bad stories thus far, with Wishworld being the latest one. The finale hasn't aired as I'm saying this, but Season 2, the current season, Shooty-Gatwa's second season, has been pretty, for the most part, consistently good. I wouldn't call any of the stories just flat out bad at this point. Who knows how some of them will hold up on rewatch. Lucky Day, for example, and Endless Stellar's Song Contest, I don't know how those are going to hold up on rewatch. But none of them have just been garbage episodes. But at the same time, I don't think we've had any S-tier episodes. We've had some solid B-tier episodes, maybe a C-tier episode in there, a couple of those. One of them that might on rewatch drop to D tier, but still nothing just garbage. But we haven't had any of those God tier or S tier episodes either. I think we've had maybe one A tier episode in The Well. Maybe. That would either be a high B tier or maybe edge into A tier. But nothing that's just, this is one of the greatest Doctor Who episodes of all time. We haven't had that. You've had just consistently good episodes without having bad episodes or amazing episodes. Much kind of like, I think, a lot of people would argue for season 20 of Classic Who, where you have, I don't think, any really good episodes, but you might not have any masterpiece episodes as well. Some people might argue for Enlightenment, not counting Five Doctors in there, since Five Doctors technically isn't part of season 20. If it is, it might be the only one I would call S-tier, and that's not even from a story standpoint, because let's be honest, that's not an S-tier story. But season 20 is pretty consistently good without being just mind-boggling. But Series 2, getting back to Series 2, is kind of the opposite of that, where you have extremes, where you have high highs, but to counter that, you also have low lows. You have 2 of the worst Doctor Who stories of all time. You have 2 Doctor Who stories in this season. Not 1, but 2 that are literally worse than anything Classic Who ever put out. Anything. Dimensions and Time is better than 2 of the stories in this season. Yeah. But it does have some S-tier stories. You do have some stories in there that are just, masterpieces almost. They're phenomenally good, and they have such a strong rewatchability to them. And then you do have some stories in there that might be below average, but they're not garbage tier. They're just like D or tier, E tier, not even F tier, just D or E tier. You guys know I run from God tier right below that, S tier, all the way down to G tier. So G tier, my tiers, if you ever see me rank on my tier list, go God tier, just the rare God tier stories, to S tier, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's kind of how I rank, with C being average. So you have maybe a couple D and E's, but, not the others aren't really in F, except for those 2 that are G's, just flat out garbage. What I sometimes also call the Whittaker tier. I don't know where that name comes from, it just springs to mind. That's Whittaker with 2 T's for that tier. I could make a Whittaker tier up top. I could call the God tier Whittaker tier with 1 T for David Whittaker. You also have the introduction of David Tennant as the Doctor. And this really is kind of a lightning in the bottle casting, because David has become kind of the fan favorite, with a lot of people kind of comparing him to Tom Baker, with people making statements of him being kind of the modern series Tom Baker, with him developing such a following. He was my solid number 2 for a long time, even though he's kind of in the middle of my list now. A very different Doctor, a very young Doctor, a very energetic Doctor, a very human Doctor. To be fair, over the course of his tenure, we do get the good and the bad of him being a human Doctor. He is very emotional, much more romantic than we've really seen the Doctor before outside of 8. But also very flawed. He has some of the flaws we have in humans. He's a bit arrogant, narcissistic, a bit full of himself, more so, I think, than most Doctors, to his detriment at times. One of the reasons I like Midnight so much is that his arrogance kind of bites him in the butt there and causes some of the problems he's having to deal with. But it's really good casting. David Tennant, I mean, you can tell he's a fan of the show. He gets this character. Rose takes a bit of a, I won't say a dive, but she takes a step down for me character-wise. Billy is still doing fine. But the character just, for some reason, the kind of lovesick puppy love jealousy thing, again, she's only supposed to be like 19, 20 years old. I get it. And to be honest, thinking about it, that actually kind of makes more sense. But just for some reason, I liked her better as a character in Series 1. It's nice to see more of Mickey in this, and Mickey gets some stuff to do. That's nice. Of course, I'm always happy to see more of Jackie. And then we get a nice variety of stories. We, again, have the full 13 episodes, including the Christmas special, 14 episodes. I will include the Christmas special with this when I'm ranking them. Kind of our first Christmas special of the modern series. And then again, you get this nice variety of stories, once again, communicating to the audience. Just all the different kinds of stories this show can tell, because we go to the past, we go to the future. Of course, we're in modern day Earth, 2005, 2006 modern day Earth. I really do wish Doctor Who would, go to, the near future, the near past more. I'd love to see them show up in 1987 or, even just 2002 or something like that. Something within the past 20, 30 years, 20, 40 years. Or end up in 2038 for an adventure, and things are just a little different. I would enjoy that. I still have a little problems with the cameras being used. I talked about this in my Series 1 review. The Series 1 and 2 especially just look weird, with it looking like, everything's so bright. It's overlit at times. It's blurry, like there's some light Vaseline on the camera. I really hate those cameras. It's just hard to watch. That is quintessentially early to mid 2000s British TV, and it is just a bugger to watch, honestly, sometimes. Of course, the music's still really good. Murray Gold's phenomenal with his music. The special effects still kind of take a hit. They were pretty decent for their time. They haven't aged the best. Even the werewolf in Tooth and Claw, which I enjoy, is definitely a CGI werewolf. And as time goes on, that's more noticeable. But I still think it's a step up over Season 1. I mean, even The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, which is a great two-parter, some of the effects look dated. It's interesting how when Modern Who first came out, everybody's like, the special effects are so much better than classic. And in some ways, I think the effects have aged worse than classic. I'm one of those people I can handle aged practical effects better than I can aged CGI effects. Depending on the CGI effects, Jurassic Park still looks phenomenal. Terminator 2 CGI effects still look phenomenal. But some of these shows, Mortal Kombat Armageddon looked terrible at the time. But I like the cast. We also get some good guest cast, for villains in this. We get, of course, the guy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer playing in School Reunion. Of course, he also played Arthur's father in Merlin. I like him. He's a good actor. He's really good in School Reunion. The girl that plays Madame de Pompadour in The Girl in the Fireplace, she is also very, very good. I like having the actress who plays Queen Victoria in Tooth and Claw, who is from Classic Who. She was in The Faceless Ones. I love when they sneak in Classic Who actors. I do. I get a happy little wee Although I didn't realize she was in Classic Who until much later after I originally saw that episode. But I still get a little excited. It's nice to see the Cybermen back. That is a great origin story for the Cybermen. I like that it's a two-parter. It gets room to breathe. And them being from a parallel universe gives a nice explanation for why their armor looks different as they evolved in a different path. I like that origin story for them. The guy playing Loomis, by the way, I like him. He's really good as Loomis. Isn't that his name? He's really good in it. And the guy playing his assistant was actually really good as his assistant. And then, of course, getting the Daleks back at the end and having the Daleks actually face off with the Cybermen, phenomenal. How long have we, wanted to see? It's kind of crazy that's never happened before. So it was kind of neat to actually get them battling and for the Daleks just to wipe the floor with them, just to explain to you how dangerous the Daleks are. And yes, I love the smack talk between the Cybermen and the Daleks. You would defeat us with 4 Daleks. We would defeat you with 1 Dalek. I love Dalek sex so much. And it's like he's not even doing it to talk smack. Daleks don't really talk smack. He's just doing it because as far as he's concerned, he's just stating a point. He's stating a fact the same way I state the sky is blue. And that makes it even more hilarious to me. You will identify, you will identify. I love that scene so much. It's just so funny. And the YouTube fan edit one is also hilarious, by the way. Yes, I have seen it. So you have, again, going back to David Tennant, you managed to get very early. Not only, as I mentioned in my Series 1 review, did you introduce people to the concept of regeneration early, so they understand that this character can change, which I think is good. But then you managed to cast an actor that people really get attached to in the role. Tennant is arguably the most popular modern Doctor, although I do think Capaldi would give him a run for his money these days. And so to have secured such a popular Doctor so early in the show's life, and there are, of course, a lot of people, Tennant was their first Doctor, because Doctor Who, modern Doctor Who was still in its infancy here, with him doing, Series 2, 3, 4, and the 2009 specials. And then they also had like a 3 or 4 year period to really get attached to him, to where he meant a lot to them, to where when he did leave, it was really hard on them. And so I really think that was lightning in a bottle casting for getting the show off the ground. I mean, it did really well with Series 1. That's why we got Series 2. But I really think David picked up that baton and ran with it. And it's part of the reason why the show kept getting bigger. I mean, even here in the States, possibly for the first time, the show really hit kind of the public mainstream for about a 4 or 5 year period, I'd say. Or 5 or 6 year period. I'd say right from the end of Tennant's reign through maybe Capaldi's first year, the show really grew in popularity to where it wasn't just a niche thing. They were showing episodes in theater. People were cosplaying the Doctor all the time. I've cosplayed the Doctor. I did a lot of conventions from around 2008 to 2014, 2015. Did a lot of conning with me and some of my friends, and sometimes just me. I've cosplayed the 9th Doctor and the 10th Doctor. Not as many people cosplayed 9, so it was kind of nice to cosplay 9. Because we do like group photos and people liked having a 9 there. I got thanked a lot for doing 9. Excuse me. So that was a lot of fun, just seeing so many Doctors at cons. You ran into them all the time. That was truly, truly a lot of fun. And then I even had people I dated. One of the reasons we started dating was a connection to Doctor Who. I mean, 3 people. 3, not 1, not 2, 3 people. That part of the reasons we started dating was a connection to Doctor Who. One girl I went on a date with, or one girl I dated, we dated for over a year. Our very first date, we went and saw Deep Breath in theater together. First date, dated over a year. So that was a lot of fun. And it was nice to see Doctor Who kind of hit that mainstream area. and seeing like in Barnes and Noble and these other stores, they had like this whole Doctor Who section with DVDs and Blu-rays and, you know, sonic screwdrivers and figures, like this whole area. That was really neat. Of course, that's long gone now. But it was neat to see that, and part of that is due to David Tennant in the role, also Matt Smith in the role. They really carried the show during their tenure. So let's go ahead and talk about Series 2. I've got my ranking right here. We're going to rank it from worst to best. We have 14 episodes, including the Christmas special, but some of those are two-parters. You guys know I count two-parters as one story. So we really have 11 stories to talk about. We're going to talk about last place. We do have 2 G tier stories, garbage tier, Whitaker tier stories, that are 2 of the worst stories Doctor Who has ever put out. Classic Doctor Who never put out a story as bad as these 2. At the bottom of the list is Fear Her. Fear Her is just, it's just dreadful. I just don't click with it. I remember when it got taken off the iPlayer, I was like, who cares? The child actress, I just don't get much into her performance. That voice they give her to talk with, I find like claws on a chalkboard. I don't find the story that interesting. There's a possible good story there, maybe on paper, but it does not come together at all in execution. It has 1 or 2 nice moments. Like I do enjoy the bit when Tennant mentions, I was a father once, and Rose is like, what? But other than that, it's a waste of time. The whole bit with the Olympic torch is just stupid. Like, just, I don't know why that's there. It's stupid. I just get dreadful piece of television. Next on the list, slightly above it, is Love and Monsters, which is also garbage. Part of this is the main guy. I just don't care for him. Just the actor doesn't do anything for me. The performance does nothing for me. And then just the character does nothing for me. Now, the actress that kind of plays his girlfriend, she's kind of neat. I've seen her in 1 or 2 other things. She's all right. The Absorbaloft, I just don't care for that as a concept. That's a Classic Who character right there. Like a stereotypical Classic Who character. Rob Holmes never would have written junk like that. But, like, people who don't watch Classic Who would think that would belongs in Classic Who, if that makes sense. It doesn't, but people who don't know better would think it does. I don't really care for the design here. Nothing against the comedian. I know it's a comedian, I think, playing him. Nothing against him. I think the performance is fine. It's just the idea is dreadful. And I know it was a kid who won a contest, and that's what it feels like. It feels like something a kid would come up with. I'm just saying that idea doesn't connect with me at all. And then the bit when he manages to partly regenerate her, and he's like, get a spade. That's, and then the whole, we even have a sex life joke. Did a 5-year-old also write the story? No. The only thing I really like about it, 1, we get a little bit of Jackie. That's great. 2, we get some ELO in it, and I love ELO. I love the Electric Light Orchestra. So I do like and respect the fact there's some ELO in there. That's enough to bump it over Fear Her, even though it's still dreadful. Now we move up into what I call maybe D or E tier stories. These are below average stories. But they're not, like, total garbage or anything. They're just kind of below average. We have the Christmas Invasion. I don't really get into this one. I tend not to like post-regeneration stories where the Doctor is sidelined for long. I don't mind a little bit. Like briefly in Robot. Even the little bit in Castrovalva doesn't really bother me. Or even in Spearhead, because it's not long. But this, it's most of the story. And you're trying to introduce this new Doctor, and he's sidelined. It has a couple humorous bits. Like when he's trying to talk to Jackie, and he's like, I need you to be quiet. That's funny. The bit with the killer Christmas tree is humorous and silly. The Sticker Axe design actually looks really good. And the whole, like, blood magic thing with making people walk off is pretty neat. It's nice to see Harriet Jones back. I like Harriet Jones. It's really, I'd say the last 15 minutes or so. Once David Tennant wakes up, once the Doctor wakes up, the episode picks up. And it's good from there, even though the bit about him regrowing his hand's a little weird. But that is a plot point for later, so I let it slide. And I do enjoy how he's playing the Doctor when he wakes up. No second chances, I'm that sort of a man. I like that. There's still an edge to him that he hasn't quite gotten rid of yet. I like watching him pick out his new outfit. I like the song that plays when he picks out his new outfit, especially the actual TV broadcast version. The version on the soundtrack's still good, but the broadcast version's better. I don't really care with the whole what he does to Harriet Jones thing. I mean, automatically right off the bat, you get this Doctor overstepping, because him deposing Harriet Jones gets rid of, cuts out Britain's golden age and also leaves the vacuum that the Master would step into in Series 3. So once again, that's the Doctor's temper getting the better of him and him causing worse things to happen later. Very arrogant, the 10th Doctor, very full of himself. And so we get that here, right in his very first episode. But the ending I do like, with him picking out his outfit and getting ready to explore the sword. Brand new world, haven't seen him, not with these eyes, and it is going to be fantastic. I like that. So the ending of it's good. Slightly above it, very slightly, still in that kind of same category, is New Earth. First off, the camera work. I talked before about how the cameras really bug me sometimes. This is definitely one of those episodes where these style of cameras just bug me. I don't know why, but they bug me. The cat makeup looks really good. I actually like the cat makeup a lot. I think this story is kind of silly, with it being that kind of hospital. And then the resolution where he just mixes them all together and starts touching everybody and they're healed. That's kind of plot convenience and silly. I mean, it's willing suspension of disbelief. I can make it work, but it is kind of silly, let's be honest. And then they just touch and it passes. Okay, why not? Sure. I do love watching him ride down the zip line, though. That's pretty cool. And then I love the decontamination bit, like when he's getting all wet and dried. And I just love the difference between Rose freaking all out as it's going on. The Doctor's just standing there like, do. That's funny to me. That's amusing. I like the little humor. I like bringing Cassandra back. I like Billy Piper and David Tennant getting to play Cassandra, because they really do add in kind of some of those quirks that the actress who does Cassandra does, and I like that. It's kind of odd to do that again for your Doctor's first full episode, since he's only at the end of Christmas Invasion. His first full episode, and you already have him acting like he's someone else. I don't know if that's a good first episode for a season. Maybe if they'd done that third or fourth episode, or even second episode. First episode seems a little early for it, especially since it's not really a good season opener for me, because it's just not it's not even an average tier story. I would have made it maybe episode 2, probably episode 3 or 4 myself. I would have started with something stronger. I think you need a good season opener. Not like bombastic season opener, but you need a good season opener, and I just feel like this wasn't it. Now we move more into your C or D tier stories. Maybe just a little below average. Not quite average. And that's the Idiot's Lantern. I enjoy the Idiot's Lantern. Part of this is down to the actress playing the Wire. She's great. My hat's off to her. If I had a hat, it would be off to her. She's really good in this. She's just so delicious to watch. Like, this is one of those things I'm watching it going, Kato Mara would be proud, because I could see Kato Mara playing the role like that, in that just deliciously, slightly over-the-top way, but in that very Harrison Chase perfectly nailing it over-the-top way. And I like her a lot. I like the vibe of it. Like, I really feel like I'm in the 50s, the 60s. I forget the exact time it's in. I think it's the 50s. I really feel like I'm there. The Doctor Who is really good with historicals. And so I really feel like I'm in that time frame. The look of everything. The casting is really good. The guy playing the kind of abusive dad, my hat's off to the actor, because he really does convey that character well. The character who thinks he's smarter than he is, thinks he's the head of the household. To make you dislike a character like that, the actor has to be putting in a good performance. And I like when he gets called out on all of it, like when Rose is like, "You've got the flag hanging upside down, Mr. Patriotic man." I love the scene when the police are interrogating the Doctor, and the Doctor turns the interrogation on them. That's hilarious, and it's definitely shot in a comedic way. Where he's sitting down and they're standing up, and by the end of it, he's standing up, looming over them, and they're sitting down. Love that scene. Love that scene. Also like how Tennant has his hair kind of done in that style of the time with the gel. That's a nice touch. The resolution of the story is good, and then I like at the end that the son is willing to give the dad a second chance, because despite everything, that is his dad. And, you know, you only got one dad. Well, I guess you could have more than one dad, but one biological dad. So I actually like that at the end, that it, you know, despite everything, you know, he still loves his dad. I actually enjoy that. Yeah, I like this one better than some people. I still don't think it's quite... It's not what I call good, but it's okay. It's one of those watch it once every 7 or 8 years type stories. Moving up into solid B-tier territory, what I would call above average. Not just okay, but into good territory, B-tier territory. We have Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. I am not a huge fan of this story. It's good. It's not great. It works as a season finale. Again, you get the tease of the Cybermen as the ghost. Watching the Doctor slowly figure it out, too, with the parallel worlds is great. You get the cliffhanger of part 1 with the real reveal of the Daleks. You spend this whole time going, oh, it's a Cyberman story. And you figured the ball was the Cybermen's, but you get that nice little touch at the end when the Cybermen are like, it is not ours. And what's in there? And you see the Daleks pop out. It's like a pulling the rug out from under you. I love that. Also, I like the actress who plays the woman who's the leader of Unit. I don't remember her name, but I like her. She's really good in this. I love the Doctor being stuck with Jackie for a bit. It's kind of funny. And Rose being off on her own with the psychic paper. And the guy in the room who they've been trained to resist the psychic paper. The reveal that Mickey has snuck back in there. I like that a lot. And then getting the battle between the Daleks and the Cybermen. And basically you have a Cyberman story turn into a Dalek story. The mystery of how the Daleks can be saved with Time Lord technology to realize at the end it's a prison barge and all the Daleks are getting out. I do think it's, again, a little Deus Machina with the Void stuff and the 3D glasses. I do love him wearing the 3D glasses to see it, though. It's such a 10th Doctor thing to do. It's so zany and so 10th Doctor with the 3D glasses. I do like that. I can see why they make pops of that. But it is a little Deus Machina. But it also does a good job of why Billie Piper is able to leave the show and Rose is gone with her being trapped in the other dimension. Because that is an acceptable explanation. I think the ending goes on a little too long. I don't really care for the beach scene. I love right when she gets saved. Hats off again to the actor who plays her dad. I like how he plays her dad from the parallel Earth so much different than her dad from Father's Day. My hats off to the actor for playing them very differently. Both good performances. But I liked at the end when they were both leaning against the wall and the way it's shot with him leaning on one side, where it looks like he's leaning on one side and she's leaning on the other. Excellent. And I do believe Graham did this one. I think Graham Harper directed this. I'm not 100% certain, but I think Graham did. And I love Graham. He's great. The only person to direct classic and modern Doctor Who. As a matter of fact, I wish they'd get him back, but he could be retired at this point. But that's an excellent shot right there at the end with him walking away. I was fine with the episode kind of ending right around there with maybe Donna turning up. The bit with the Bad Wolf Bay is a little stretched out, a little too cuddly-wuddly. I mean, yeah, you get that emotional gut punch that he disappears before he can tell her he loves her. But, although I do love the very end bit with the runaway bride, because I love Donna. I love Donna. And the fact that Donna is very much Donna right from the get-go. Who am I? What is this place? What the heck is going on here? And then we get David with, of course, the 10th Doctor's famous what? Which I love that. I love that that's a running thing with David Tennant Doctors. The what? I love that. And then the look on his face as he's saying it. It's so seldom you see the Doctor that kind of perplexed, and I love that. So it's solid, but it's just not like the greatest season finale of all time. You know, it's not the Seeds of Doom. It's not Talons. It's not even Revenge of the Cybermen. Granted, Revenge of the Cybermen wasn't originally intended to be a season finale. Terror of the Zygons would, which would have made a great season finale. Next on the list, sticking with the B category, we have the Age of Steel two-parter. Of course, that and Rise of the Cybermen. Again, solid B tier. Great reintroduction story for the Cybermen. And again, I mentioned earlier in the video, I like the parallel Earth aspect of it. I like that origin story for them there. I like the guy playing Loomis in it. I like the guy playing his assistant. I like the guy playing the kind of mayor character. I know that actor from other stuff. I like him. The mayor, the one who kind of insists on what happens if I refuse, and the doctor's trying to tell him not to. I like him. That's a small part, but he nails it. I do like that Cyberman design. I mean, it's not like my favorite, but it is a nice Cyberman design. It's nice to see... again, the alternate version of Pete is really good. I like the alternate version of Jackie. My hat's off to the actress playing this alternate version of Jackie, and it's kind of crazy to see what happens with her. I feel like Noelle gets a bit to do with Mickey here, playing Mickey and Ricky, and I like seeing Mickey get some character growth here. It's a nice, solid story. Has a really good cliffhanger. I like the build up to the reveal of the Cyberman right at the end. The Cybermen, that's nice. And then I think it resolves itself pretty well in the second episode. Again, we're kind of in that era where two-parters are pretty good throughout. Where part 2 really lives up to part 1. That you really get that, I think, in all of the two-parters in Series 2, where part 2 stands up with part 1 really well in all 3 of the two-parters, which we don't always get later in modern Doctor Who. Sometimes part 2 is just a bit weaker than part 1, whereas in Series 1 and Series 2, I feel like part 2 is right up there in quality with part 1 of the different two-parters. Next on the list, the one story that I'll put in A tier. I mean, it's a close, depending on the day, I'd put it maybe high B tier, low A tier. But it's a fun, maybe easing into A tier story for me, and that's Tooth and Claw. I like Tooth and Claw a lot. I love werewolves. Even though I'm not a fan of most werewolf movies, I think there was a TV series I watched when I was little, back when Fox first came out here in the States. And it was a show just called Werewolf. Even had Chuck Connors playing one of the main villains in it. And it was obviously about a guy who turns into a werewolf. And I loved that show. And ever since then, I've been really partial to werewolves, even though I like The Howling, the first couple of them. I like American Werewolf in London and Paris, but I don't own them. Whereas I want to own that werewolf series, but I would never put it out in the States over here. I think the French release of it is on my wish list. But so I still though have that connection to werewolves, so I love a werewolf episode. And I like how well it's done here. Again, I like having the actress who's playing Queen Victoria here, the one who played in The Faceless Ones. I love that David Tennant gets to use his actual Scottish accent a bit. That's really nice. I can never keep up when he loses it. During the story, it kind of slips and he goes back to his British one. I can never pinpoint when that happens. I've never been able to do that. I love that him and Rose have the little bet going where if they can make her say, I am not amused. They're kind of treating it as a game a little too much, which bites them in the ass at the end because the Queen is not stupid. I like the guest cast all around. The guy who owns the house, who's kind of being forced to work for them, I liked him. The Queen's guard, the kind of number 1 guard or kind of her kind of, first commander type, I like him a lot. The one who's like telling the one guy, you, sir, are a traitor. I'll do my duty. I like them. And I like the fact that a couple of those guest characters are willing to sacrifice themselves to buy time. I also like that Queen Victoria's, husband worked with the other guy to build that room that's kind of, to set up the weapon and build the room, and the room's supposed to be werewolf-proof. Big plot hole there, I will admit that. It definitely can't be an S-tier story. Because, all right, we've made this room completely werewolf-proof. There's like this giant glass dome or window at the top that nobody takes into account. So, Frank, what is it, Steve? We've gotten everything done. What do you think about the roof? Glass dome. Oh, you think that's a good idea? Yeah, glass dome. We'll be able to look out. You don't think that could be a problem? Nah, it'll never get up there. It does seem like kind of a glaring exhaust port plot hole there. But other than that, it's pretty neat. Yes, the CGI on the werewolf is obviously a CGI werewolf. Does it bother me? Not really. It's something I make note of. I move on. It's fine. It's a fun episode. It's an enjoyable episode. And I like the fact that the Queen's not stupid. She knows there's something off for them. And because of the 10th Doctor being the 10th Doctor, this, of course, leads to the events that lead to the founding of Torchwood, which would come back to cause all of the problems in the series finale. So, sometimes the Doctor's his own worst enemy. And then we move in to the top 3 stories. These are all S-tier stories for me. Like, S-tier, at least. I love all 3 of these stories. They have such a strong rewatchability to me. They are all masterpieces in their own way. And it's really hard to pick for them. They're practically ties. I'm going to list them as a 1, 2, and 3, but it's a list that can just switch around by the day. They're pretty much ties. I love all 3. We have The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit. I have Gabriel Wolf back in Doctor Who. I am always going to be some degree of happy. As much as I don't like Empire of Death, I am very pleased I got Gabriel Wolf back as Sutekh. Gabriel Wolf just has this amazing voice. To be his age, to still have that amazing voice. But I loved having Gabriel Wolf brought back to voice the Beast, because the Beast, of course, is alluded to it possibly being kind of an origin story for Satan, which Sutekh is also kind of set, as an origin story possibly of Satan. So I liked kind of the nod to Sutekh in Classic Who they did there by casting Gabriel Wolf as the Beast. And he's fantastic in the role. The scene when he's scaring the one guy so much, don't turn around. I can almost reach out. That is such a good scene. Gabriel Wolf just kills it there. And then the scene of the guy noticing the pottery has disappeared from the writing has disappeared from the pottery, and then he looks and it's on his hands. That's chilling. That's Noah pulling the slime-covered, hand out of his arm. That's the modern Who equivalent of that. I saw somebody one time doing a review of the story. They brought that up. I don't remember who it was, but that's always stuck with me, because it is. It's very much the equivalent of when Noah pulled that infected goop hand out in the Ark in Space. It's just chilling, and seeing him freak out about it. And the actor who plays him does a really good job of playing regular him and possessed him. He does a really good job of that. I like the cast in general in this. The guest cast are really nice. Now, again, some of the effects look a little dated. Some of the space effects, some of the effects from the Beast look a little BBC budget mid-2000s. It's fine, because the story is so good it covers it. I like the set design, too. The space station set design is phenomenally good. It has a very industrial look to it. Much like how I love the Nostromo design from Alien. I love that blue-collar look it has to it. And again, the cast do a good job of selling that. The blue-collar industrial workers, which I like. You have really good cast members in this. You have the introduction of the Ood. Not a big fan of the Ood. I just don't like their design. I do not like that design at all. I tend to be very put off by the Ood. And then the Doctor kind of gives his speech. His I believe in her speech doesn't really do much for me. Don't really care for that speech. Although I do love the speech, or the kind of talk he gives when he's lowering himself down into the pit. And he's like, it could be 3 feet, it could be 30 feet. And he takes that chance to risk it, because that's such a Doctor thing to do. I enjoy that moment a lot. And I like the fact that it's Rose that saves the day. And the main reason the Beast loses is because, much like Sutekh, it gets overconfident. It reveals its hands because it thinks it's gotten away. It thinks it's scot-free. And its hubris is its undoing, as Rose realizes and lets it out. Again, kind of the same way the 4th Doctor defeated Sutekh. So I kind of like the full circle nature of that. Definitely a strong, well-written, well-directed episode. Next on the list is The Girl in the Fireplace. First off, I love the incidental music for this. I love the Madame de Pompadour theme. It's one of my favorite pieces of music in all of Doctor Who. I have the Series 1-2 soundtrack, which has that theme on it. I've listened to it so many times. But if they did just a soundtrack to this episode, I would pay money for it, because there's so many variations of the theme that play during the episode. I'd buy just a soundtrack for that episode. Murray Gold, make it happen. The actress playing Madame de Pompadour in this is very good. Her and David have such a good chemistry, and I like the chemistry between her and the 10th Doctor in this a lot. I like just the story. And I love that bit about what's 17th century France doing on the spaceship. Mickey, get some perspective. I like that. And the fact that robots have managed to make that happen. And I love the fact that all of this happens because people weren't careful when programming the robots. Because a robot really is just a very smart, stupid thing. It only knows what you tell it. It only knows what it's programmed. I like how we see that also in Deep Breath, but in a very different way in Deep Breath. I think it takes that idea and does something original with it. But I love that the machines are only doing that because the people who programmed them didn't think through well enough to know not to program them to do that, or to program them not to do that. Because we have to remember that these machines are not human. Obviously, as humans, we know, hey, don't do that. But a robot only knows what it's programmed to know. So it's doing what it thinks is the most effective way to do it. That's interesting. Also, I love the design of the robots. One, their actual design, when you see them without their costumes, much like the Doctor, I'm like, you are beautiful. And I love that scene. I love that the 10th Doctor is in awe of the gears and all that, and how he's like, wow. You can almost see the 3rd Doctor showing there. Tenure 3 is showing. I love that. But then the costumes they wear, the mask especially, are really good at being creepy, having kind of a sinister vibe to it. Plus the actors, the way they move, I love their movements, combined with the sounds they make. That is wonderful design. That is a wonderful design to create an iconic villain. And they are. To me, they're iconic villains. The movements, the sounds, the look, everything about them just feels fleshed out, and I like that. And then such a sad ending. Such a sad ending. Tennant sells that ending. Tennant's so good at acting just with his face, especially when he's sad or upset. He's so good at doing that just with his face without saying a word. The bit at the end when, Rose, are you all right? And the Doctor's like, I'm always all right. And he's lying. And even Mickey's like, why don't you show me around? Because he realized the Doctor needs some time alone. And that he really wanted Renette to come with him. They really connected and clicked. And it's such a sad, beautiful ending. Once again, Stephen Moffat just, gosh, there are times when he's just the best in modern Doctor Who. And one of the best in Doctor Who. And this episode really is top tier for me. And number 1 on the list, although again the top 3 are all interchangeable, is School Reunion. Partially just we get Sarah Jane back, and Sarah Jane's my favorite companion. Elizabeth Sladen is such a joy to see. And I'm so glad they brought Elizabeth Sladen back, and that we got to have Sarah Jane back before Elizabeth passed. Because this came out only about 5 years before Elizabeth passed. So I'm glad that she got to be a huge part of a whole nother generation. With her appearances in modern Doctor Who, and with the Sarah Jane adventures, that a whole new generation of children got to be raised with her, because she's such a phenomenal character. And her and Tennant click really well. I really believe that this is, 2 people who haven't seen each other in a long time reconnecting. Her and Tennant act off each other really well. I like her and Billie Piper together. Between the little bit of jealousy at the beginning to them getting along as well as they do. Even the scene when they're laughing at the Doctor. Does he still stroke parts of the TARDIS? And then when he's like, what? And they're just like, that's funny to me. I love seeing K9 back. I love K9. I love K9. And having John back voicing K9 will always be a joy. So, again, I love having the guy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Merlin back. He's good. He makes a really good villain in this. I love some of the conversations between him and the Doctor. They're just really touching, really menacing at ways. Tennant sells it. And then, again, there's sometimes that camera, I don't really like that camera, comes into play. But other than that, it's a solid story. The K9 sacrificing himself is touching, and especially if you're a classic Who fan, hits you in the feels. But it's nice at the end of the episode he builds her another one. And I like that they kind of got to say their goodbye to each other, even though we would see more of Sarah. It's just, and I love the fact that it brought back a classic companion so early in the run. And the fact it made an episode so good that even if you've never seen Classic Who, if you don't know who Sarah Jane is, you understand the connection. You get the impact of the character. You get the connection they have. You get the loss of everything they went through. The episode is written, directed, and performed so well that you don't have to have that past knowledge of these two characters to understand the bond that they had and the bond that they still have, and you can still feel the emotional beats. And also, I love that camera movement when she first sees the TARDIS and she's backing up and the camera pans around her, spins around to have Tennant standing behind her. Great piece of camera work. Also, the look on Tennant's face there is really good. Very enigmatic of it, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really well done. So that's how I would rank Series 2. A season with high highs, low lows, and then some stories that are in various places in the middle. Some above average while not being amazing. Some below average while not being garbage. Not really anything I would call maybe C tier. Maybe one C tier story. That's about it. So I want to know what you think of Series 2. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. All the other fun stuff down in the comments below. Links to the Patreon, links to the Amazon wish list, links to the Amazon UK wish list, the P.O. boxes down there as well. I always love getting fan mail. I do have a birthday coming up soon at the very beginning of July. If anyone wants to send me any birthday presents, would love to get some more Big Finish stuff or some more standard collection sets if anyone wants to send anything, or some non-Doctor Who stuff they'd be interested in me watching sci-fi related. And as always, I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons: Colin Coney, Sam Venning, Finn Perkins, and Unknown289. I appreciate their continued support. Most importantly, thank you for watching.